It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, Brian, so that's the 20s, right? We said it's hard to screw up. Let's talk a little bit about the 30s, because this one, you hear us talk about this all the time. This is the messy middle. In my opinion, this is where life gets kind of hairy. This is where you have 1,000 different things pulling you in 1,000 different directions. So it's not uncommon to think, oh man, I blinked, I woke up, I was in my 30s, and holy cow, I've not been doing the things that I thought I should have been doing.
You guys make me so happy when you send us the emails and go, I've never heard the term messy middle until I started listening to you guys, and holy cow.
You're so right.
It's laughable because there's so much truth in it. And we have a graphical illustration that we always chuckle when we pull this thing up, because every one of you who's lived a little life and you're in your 30s now or beyond your 30s, you're going to look at this and be like, oh yeah, this is the way it happens. It's because you graduate college and you don't have much income. You don't have a lot of disposable income, but you also don't have a lot of commitments.
You can do whatever you want, whatever. Tuesday night movies if you want to.
So that's why I always say it's very easy to start building something. I don't care if it's $50 a month. As soon as you get out and start working and living on your own, get money working to you. But look what happens. As you start going through your 20s and approaching your 30s, your disposable income does start to go up, but guess what else starts going up? Those commitments also start walking up all the way till you get to the point in the 30s that you can quickly see that your commitments overwhelm with your disposable income. And that's why you can feel underwater, because you have so many things pulling on you. You got that house purchase, you got the kids and all their activities, your need to save for retirement, the need to think about college planning. All of these things start to build upon you. So I thought it was interesting. We've talked about financial stages of life, Bo, but you and the content team said, hey, there's another component here I don't feel like we visualize well enough. What did we add this year?
It's not just disposable income. It's disposable dollars. It's disposable time, because in your 20s, you got tons of it. You can do whatever you want. You want to go to the gym for a couple hours? Great. You want to go for a hike? Great. You want to do fill in the blank? Great. You have time to do it. Well, then these same sort of life events happen. You get married, you buy the house, you start the family, you have the career commitment, you have the community. All of a sudden, your disposable time goes away and away and away and away. And it's so interesting. In this decade of the 30s, not only do you not have a ton of disposable income, you also have a ton of disposable time. You are living in the area of scarcity in this messy middle. And when you live in that place, it is just natural for us to get behind, for us not to take care of the things that we need to be taken care of.
Okay, I feel like we've done enough glass half empty, pessimistic talk. Let's focus on this. If we know that we have limited income, we have limited time, we better be very deliberate. We need to plan ahead, be those financial mutants who every moment, every dollar has a purpose. And I think if you're a person that struggles with it, this is when that dreaded B word comes into play. I do think if you're trying to figure out, where do I start my catch-up process? How do I make sure, since I know I'm being squeezed by the messy middle, the first thing I would say, we need to stop and look at recognize your blind steps, and maybe need to even think about a budget.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about budgeting, and it's a blind spot for a lot of us because we think, I don't need to do that. I haven't done that. Well, if you find yourself where you're in a place and you've not been doing the things that you want to be doing, and you don't know where your money has been going, perhaps now is the time to actually do the thing that you've been putting off, to actually line item out. Here's what I have coming in, and here's what I have going out. Because when you can start to see that, you can start to make decisions around it. And maybe you say, I don't know where to start. I've never done a budget before. I don't have something I can use. Don't worry, we have you covered. Inside of our brand new Know Your Number course, where we walk you through how to figure out your number, one of the homework assignments, one of the sheets we have you work through is actually a very basic budgeting worksheet. Now, you don't have to use this. There's tons of free resources and templates and softwares and all kinds of things out there that you can use. But if you don't know where to start, check out learn.moneyguide.com, because if you're in your 30s and you've not figured out how to take command of your dollars, you don't know where the dollars that come in from your paycheck are starting to go out to, budgeting might be something that you have to go back to square one and start over with.
Well, it works nicely with the financial order of operations. And the fact, because you're also going to want to make sure, because you have so much riding on every dollar you make, you're going to want to make sure you have your emergency reserves in a good place too. Because one of the scary things about all, in addition to now you're likely married, you have children, everybody's counting on you to keep being successful at work, is that all these people are just in the background. You cannot have anything come out of a Tuesday in the middle of the afternoon like you lose your job or an accident or something, a medical emergency. You got to know the basics. That's why I love where budgets and the financial order of operations can have that intersection where you know what your emergency reserves are, where you're going to build your army of dollar bills. They all work together, so don't forget. And then that moves to the next thing, because hopefully if you're doing it right, we talk about discipline creates where you live off of less than you make. And that's what a budget's going to help you do. Be disciplined. Hopefully that leads you to money that now you can invest. And that savings and investment rate's very important.
That's exactly right. You know that our goal is we want you to get to 25% savings. This is so important by the time you get in your 30s. But if you look at the data, if you look at the statistics, the average 401k contribution rate for someone in the 30s is only 8.3%. So we are still far off from 25%. So if you are that person that's only saving 5, 6, 7%, again, maybe you have to go back to the basics, back to budgeting to figure out what things can I cut out to get my savings rate back to where it needs to be.
Well, and I think that's why I love having the tools like the budgeting and other things, is because a big risk in your 30s is you play mental tricks on yourself and you start having lifestyle creep. You think, hey, I got kids, I need a bigger house. And all these things, your goals and objectives start changing. If you can have the understanding of what you need to have success, and that's what know your number is actually going to help you, what you're actually saving and investing and growing for purpose, you'll keep yourself from making those mental shifts just because of lifestyle creep, because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or just because it might make things a little bit better. That's why it's always important. Know the difference between needs. Those are important. That's basics. Loves, those are important just so you end life and you feel really good and you're very purposeful. But those wants can play all kind of mental tricks and traps on you, and I just don't want you to fall prey to that.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about some of the blind spots that are out there, recognizing what those things are, whether it be your savings rate, whether it be budgeting, whether it be lifestyle creep. Another thing that you can do to help you catch up is we design our rules very intentionally to have some flexibility for folks who we know want to be on the financial mutant path, but just haven't lived quite enough life to get there. So we build in flexibility that allows you to have some margin inside of these bigger decisions that you're making.
I take a lot of pride in this, Bo, because I'm very proud of the fact that I think this is what makes our advice realistic and our content so realistic, because there's so many people out there pushing content that are absolutes in the fact that you better put down 20% on a house, that you better pay cash for vehicles. The problem is, I've already explained to you in the messy middle, you already have your spouse, your children, your job, the house that you're trying to provide for your family, everything's pulling at you. And then you have over all of this, the desire to have financial independence. It feels like everything is working against you at these points. You need more flexibility. And that's why I felt so good about, look, on your first home purchase, we know the first time home average is around 33 years of age.
Yep.
If it's your first home purchase, 3 to 5% down payment's okay. That's the flexibility we're talking about, so that every dollar can be very purposeful in what it's doing for you. The other thing, paying for a car with cash. That sounds great, but if you're in a struggling situation, that might be a clunker. And if you're not a handy person that every time it breaks down, you know, hey, that's just the alternator needs to be replaced, and I can go do that, you might need reliable transportation. And that's why I do like that we give additional options with 23.8 and other things. But before I move on to the cars and stuff, let's focus on this car, because I know that there's an opportunity cost that a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but 20%, I've heard that from so many people. Let's see what that actually means from an opportunity cost standpoint.
Yeah, so we give you the flexibility that you can put less down on your first house. Well, how does this practically play out in your financial life? Well, let's assume you're going to buy the median home value home right now, which is $440,000. Well, if you're going to put 5% down, your down payment's only $22,000. That doesn't sound completely impossible. That doesn't sound like an incredibly difficult thing to do. If you want to put 20% down as someone in their 30s, you've got to come up with $88,000. That is a lot of ched. That's a difficult thing. So if you were able to put down that 5%, put down that $22,000, and you had the additional $66,000 you could do something else with, what could that do for you? What could that extra $66,000 do? Well, if you just took it and invested it from the age of 33, when you buy your first time home, all the way until retirement, that $66,000 deployed at age 33 could turn into almost $850,000 by the time that you get to retirement.
Now, I know the contrarians are going to say, yeah, but that $66,000 difference is also going to have an interest cost.
Sure, of course.
But recognize, there is going to be a dramatic spread from the long-term performance if you put that money to work versus what the interest cost is. The bigger risk when you're in your 30s is, will you have enough money at retirement? Right. Now, look, there's going to come a point. All of you debt haters, I'm with you. I don't like debt either. But there's a time and a place, and that typically is mid to late 40s is when you ought to attack that debt. But the biggest thing we're trying to figure out from age 22, 45 is, will you be successful enough that you actually have retirement money? That risk, the needle is definitely falling on you. Better get as much money working for you while compounding growth is working in your favor ASAP. So don't mishear us. We are not minimizing the risk of debt. It's just we're trying to put it in its proper place with all the other risk out there, like, will you not have enough money to retire?
All right, so we've talked about recognizing your blind spots in your 30s as a way to catch up. We've talked about flexibility. The other thing that you still have the ability to do in your 30s is build good habits. Now, here's the good news. You still have a lot of opportunity to build good habits. Here's the bad news. If you've not been building good habits, then you've most likely been building bad habits. So you have to undo some bad behavior so you can start doing some good behaviors. If you can recognize this in the 30s, and if you can shift that mindset, you will be amazed at how much you can impact your future self.
I also love, Bo, because this is a great decision point between good habits, bad habits, because every dollar or every percent you can put towards saving and investing is still super powerful. Mm-hmm. So share with them what 1%, or maybe you can come up with 5%,
sure,
whatever. This is still going to be your base case and you can build off of it. What does 1% become for them?
For a 30-year-old, if you can just save 1% additional of your pay, 1% additional of your gross income, by the time you get to retirement, just that 1% savings will replace almost 5% of your living expenses in retirement year over year. By the time you get to 39, 1% savings will still replace 2.5% of your retirement living expenses today. I would think about it in these terms. If I can walk away from 1% today, I can pay myself 2.5% at some point in the future when I decide to retire. The small decisions you make in your 30s can still have huge impacts for your financial independence later on in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
And I want you to be purposeful in this, because a lot of people, you're still having a good time in your 20s, you're having a good time in your 30s. You're like, why? YOLO, let's live for today. But here's the thing, we're not asking for a ton. We're asking you to prioritize, because I can tell you, coming out on the other side, every dollar you can do while you're in that huge compound growth opportunity, which is 20 to really 40 years of age, do it. Your future self will thank you for it, because there is no greater thing than when you're actually exceeding your goals and objectives. When we do our annual wealth survey with all of our millionaire clients, I have yet, and I keep waiting, and we keep doing this content so they know that I'm waiting on this. I have yet to have somebody say, man, I saved way too much, too young.
Too wealthy now.
I even have wealthy clients that say, I wish I'd have saved more.
Yep.
I mean, because there is something about doing things on your terms. You own your time. If you still have to go to work because you got to pay the bills, you don't own your time yet. And that is the goal of financial independence. You do what you want, when you want, because you want to. Own your life as soon as possible, so prioritize saving and investing for the future.